I think my art would say thank you. Thank you for using me and not discarding me. Thank you for giving me a new life and a new concept and a new structure. I really appreciate it, and I'm hoping that someone likes it enough that they want to bring it to their home or office because it resonates with them. That's what I'm thinking.
This is a podcast called The Many Faces of StellaNova, a podcast for the StellaNova Foundation. Here's your host, Scott Arthur.
Welcome to our Houston Art Weeks podcast, where creativity meets community. Houston Art Weeks 2025 runs from October the 10th through the 19th, spotlighting artists in galleries and studios across the city. Now, every purchase supports the StellaNova Foundation mental health outreach. It's a creativity cause with a cause. You are about to meet some of the artists making it happen. Now, joining me today are two talented artists being spotlighted in Houston Art Weeks. Now, these two are not your typical artist. They are artists working beyond the canvas, finding expression in unexpected forms. They deal quite successfully in mixed media. Let's meet them. First, we say hello to Rikki Mitman. Hi, Rikki. How are you?
Hey, doing great.
Well, tell me about this. Now, what kind of art do you create?
I work in Kiln-Fired Enamel. My canvas is a piece of copper, and I fire it at about 1425 in a kiln, and it all fuses together. And the technique that I use is something that they said was not possible, but I persisted, as we do, and I've been doing it for 10 years, and it works really well.
What is the technique they didn't see was possible?
I embed things in the enamel when I fire it. So other pieces of enameled metal, pieces of glass, pieces of copper, and I stack them up willy-nilly, and it works.
Now, what got you into that? Did you just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to work with copper?
No, actually, I was a glass bead maker for 26 years, and glass sort of led me to enamel. And then I've also done a lot of work in mixed media collage, and I love collage and I love abstract. And somehow, and I can't tell you when the aha moment was because it sort of happened gradually, but it came together in a fusion of the glass and the collage. And my process is very much a collage type of thought process, but it just happens to happen at a very high temperature.
How long does it take you to create something?
Well, days, because you have to clean the metal and put down the base coat and wait for it to dry, and then you fire it, and then you clean everything, and then you do the next layer, and you wait for it to dry, and then you fire it. So it's a process of multiple days. And a lot of the pieces that I lay into the enamel are already made. These other little pieces, smaller pieces of enameled copper, I make ahead of time in large quantity in different colors. So I have trays of these things, abstract shapes that I can select from to build my enamel collages.
We'll find out a little bit more about it in a bit. But let's meet Marsha Glickman. Welcome. How are you doing, Marsha?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. You didn't know you were going to be talking to another mixed media person, did you?
Oh, no, but actually I've seen Rikki's work, and it's fabulous.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, tell me a little bit about your work. Do they call you an upcycle artist? And if so, why?
Yes, well, that's because my methodology is to only use found material. So I don't buy anything special for my art. It's only found material. It could be paper. It could be objects. It could be things off the street. So whatever I find that looks interesting that I might be able to use to actually develop a concept or a theme in my art, I'll keep it. And so I have a lot of what I call ephemera ready for me to use.
Well, what are you working on right now?
Well, actually, I have several projects that I'm working on. One of the projects that I'm really having fun with, it's called The Eyes They See. And it's basically looking at different things that we see with our eyes, but I also incorporate a lot of eyes, actually images of eyes that I found in magazines or perhaps actually objects that I can put together to actually form an eye or an image of an eye. So because I think that, my art, one of my concepts is that, do you see what I see? But the truth is you don't, art, everyone does not necessarily see what I see because everyone's idea about what they see in a piece of art is very individual and personal. So I may make something and have a particular concept in mind that I believe the piece does display. Someone else may look at it and see something totally different, and that's good because I think art is very personal.
So did that phrase just come to mind and you said, okay, I want to create something with a lot of eyes?
No, it just kind of happened. I like the idea of eyes, and I like the idea of seeing. And, I think of those acronyms or those statements such as the eyes they see, put your eye on it, and so forth. So those also might be incorporated into this project.
How about you, Rikki? What influences your artwork?
I think it's very much a flow process for me. It's the mood of the moment. I'll start with certain colors and maybe a form. A lot of the shapes that I pre-cut and pre-enamel for my work are abstract shapes, and so this red what's it will grab me, and I'll go, oh yeah, and pretty soon I'm building something that's very fiery, and I'm working with heat and ideas of passion, and 10 minutes later or the next day, it'll be all, oh, I want tranquility and blues and turquoises, and so I think really follows my mood a lot.
I'm trying to picture your workshop. I mean, ordinarily an artist would have, canvas, palette, et cetera, et cetera.
My kiln is fairly small. My art is, the pieces that I make tend to be 2 inches by 3 inches, up to 3 inches by 4 inches. They're not big, huge, massive enamels. It becomes technically more challenging to make larger pieces. There are people who do, but for my work, it tends to be smaller, and then I mount them on panels. So the actual hanging piece might be 5 by 7, 11 by 14, not really huge stuff. I have some hand shears. I have a lot of hammers for some reason. I'm a hammer freak, but most of my tools are pretty small hand tools.
Is there any particular material that you like to use on a regular basis?
I use a lot of copper, and the base enamels that I use. I also use a lot of glass, actual colored glass that I can melt and pull into strings or long wavy pieces, and then I can kind of cut them and drop them in, and that gives linear elements and a little bit of more of a 3D kind of effect to the work.
I like that. How about you, Marsha? Do you have a favorite material with which you work?
Well, I work with, as I mentioned earlier, all kinds of found materials. I seem to find a lot of different papers, like old magazines and maps, and just written information that someone has written, perhaps a love letter. Just whatever I find, I think of a theme that I can possibly incorporate the piece in. I have a series I call Connections, where I put the more bland ephemera, the more bland papers in the background, and then I connect the concepts of the different pieces of paper with colorful dots. And that seems to be a very, really a rewarding type of artwork that I do. I always like to have some type of a concept or a meaning or a historical event behind each piece so that it can tell a story. And I'm always happy to share the story with visitors to the studio to let them know what's behind it.
I was going to ask you that. And, if somebody approaches your piece of art, which of course would look unique, do you wait for them to ask you what it's all about, or do you look for an explanation from them, or how do they approach it?
Well, when people come into the studio, I usually say hello and ask them their name if they've been here before. And I just say, take your time looking at the art pieces. And if you have any questions, let me know, because there is a story behind each piece. So some visitors do ask about particular pieces and some don't. So it just shows their personal connection to a piece of art if they ask questions about it.
Do you name your pieces of art?
Yes, I do.
What's your favorite one?
Well, again, I might name it as a series. For instance, my connection series I call Connections 1, Connections 2, and so forth. Some things I name based on the concept that I might have in mind. It could be, it's variable. There's no specific methodology to naming my pieces. Once I finish the piece and I think about, what was the concept that I started with, which could have changed based on what I used in the piece, then I give it a name. And the names are unique to that particular piece.
I love that. And so you just give it a name that you come up with at the time that you're inspired with? Or do you sit around and say, for 2 days and decide what a name is going to be?
No, I usually, sometimes I think of the name before I finish it, and then again, hopefully I'll have the pieces that I need to finish it to properly show that concept or event. And if I don't, I might have to change the name. But that's okay.
That is okay. That is okay, because the name has to match exactly, and then it helps the vibe.
It helps people to understand, yes. Yeah, it does indeed. How about you, Rikki? When people come to you, do you explain right away what you're doing, or do you look at their face and wait for them to ask, or how are you approached?
Well, I kind of like to let people browse. I'm a little reticent in other places where I don't want to feel pounced on or, like I'm getting a big sales pitch. So I'll let people walk around, and I tend to sit back in my workspace and I just kind of holler out, let me know if you have any questions about the enamels. I'm not busy back here. And sometimes they'll come around and start asking me. Often they're more curious about, the technique at first. How is this made? What is it? They don't know what they're looking at. And I will get similar questions about naming and, how I come up with my ideas and so on as well.
I would imagine in a big gallery, and I don't go to a lot of galleries, although I will start because I'm loving this series, is that, in the front, they've got all these pictures and people are looking at it and admiring it and feeling it and inspired by it. And then they go toward the mixed media. And I think they're more curiosity than admiration. What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on the taste of the viewer. I mean, there are some people who love abstract and mixed media work, and that's all they want, and that's all they're going to buy. And there are other people who, they want bluebonnets or portraits or city scenes. Right. I mean, there's as many preferences as there are artists.
Do you think that the mixed media public is growing? More and more people want mixed media?
I do. I think that people are, shifting away from the idea that art must always be a concrete thing, a dog or a woman or a landscape or whatever, and going more for pieces that maybe evoke a certain feeling in them. Does it make them feel calm or festive or excited? That kind of thing. So more of almost an emotional quotient in the art.
Have you ever, and please forgive my ignorance, but have you ever created anything that never did sell and is still sitting in the corner with some dust on it?
Oh, sure. Sure. It's
I can hear Marsha in the background saying that too.
Yeah, you come into my studio, and what you're going to see on display is what I think is my best work. And not everything comes out fabulous. I've got this little box back here of duds, and it's really difficult to reclaim the copper once the enamel's on it. It's kind of done, which is disheartening because copper is so expensive. And I've tried, but it's really hard to get that enamel off. And so they just sit back there, and once in a while, one of them will grab my eye, and I'll go, "Oh, I can do this with that." But it's a pretty rare occurrence. So sure, there's always a few duds.
You might pull it out of the corner and say, the climate in the country has changed, and maybe this will work now.
Yeah, or I'll look at it and say, "Oh, if I just put some green right there and fired it again." And at that point, you have nothing to lose, so you might as well try.
There you go.
Because there is no gesso in enamel. When you work on canvas, and that's something that I miss terribly, is that if all else fails, you can gesso over it and go on with your life. But
how about you, Marsha? I would assume you have no duds in your corner. Is that correct?
I do have pieces that I do rotate my art so that when people come to my studio, they see new work each time. But then I put it back because, every visitor is different, and an older piece might be something that would resonate with them.
Have you ever created anything that maybe has changed the community or affected the community?
It could change. Sometimes I do, people do ask me that they say that this really resonates with them and they want this piece. I've had different people, such as even people who are religious that see something in the piece that resonates with them, like some theocracy piece. And they want it because it resonates with them.
Folks, if you're just joining us, we're talking to two excellent artists. I'm talking to Rikki and to Marsha. And one of the reasons we're talking to them is because of Houston Art Weeks. And Houston Art Weeks, if you don't know, is a brand new cultural tradition launching October the 10th through the 19th in 2025. It's called HAW 2025. For 10 days, the city's neighborhoods and galleries, independent artists like the ones you're listening to right now, will unite to showcase creativity while giving back. From pop-up shows and studio visits to major events like the Bayou City Art Festival, Houston Art Weeks, things that Marsha will be going to tonight, on and on. They're for the first-time buyers to seasoned collectors. And every purchase has purpose, with a portion of proceeds supporting the StellaNova Foundation's mental health outreach. And I wanted to ask both of you, how do you feel about that? This is a new idea, and you're part of it. What are your thoughts? Let's start with Rikki.
Well, I'm always very interested in using my art to support causes that I care about. So I have donated to lots of auctions and fundraisers and things like that. And I was delighted to contribute to this one because I feel that mental health is a growing issue in this country, and it doesn't get enough maybe support and attention and so on. And so an organization that wants to reach out and help in that manner and use art to do it, that's just right up my alley.
There you go. Marsha?
Yes, I totally agree with Rikki. I do also donate art to particular causes that are important, and I do agree that mental health is a big issue. In my former life, I was a clinician, and mental health was a very big part of taking care of people. So I think that the fact that the organization is sponsoring this type of an event is really phenomenal. And the whole week, there's so much going on in Houston. I'm just, I hope it doesn't overwhelm people, but I certainly plan to be in my studio on most of these days and to attend any special events so that I can be available to help people.
I read somewhere where Houston is right up there with New York and San Francisco as far as attracting artists and being an art center. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's probably true because Houston is a big city. There's lots of opportunity here. I think a lot of people are moving here for jobs. and because maybe the climate is not the best, but at least it doesn't get too cold in the winter. So so I think that people do support, and we have a lot of organizations here in Houston that are supportive of art and the artists, and I think that it's out there in the publications. Most people you talk to know something about somewhere or some organization that sponsors art events. So it's a very common, and I think a very fruitful thing here in Houston to have for artists. It's a really good location for artists to be.
Very much so. Very much so. All right, ladies, I have one more question for you, which is a big one. What's one project you dream of doing if resources were unlimited? Let's start with Rikki.
Something I have always wanted to do is to bring an arts program to a battered women's shelter. I've done arts programs through community centers and had people come in who have very little art experience, and they're intimidated by the whole concept, and by the time they leave, they're carrying something really cool that they made in my class, and there's a light that goes on in their eyes, and their self-esteem is elevated. And I think self-esteem is a key issue for women who come out of battering situations. And I think it's also, art is a great mental vacation. And that is a program that I would just dearly love to be able to be involved with.
Very nice. How about you, Marsha?
Well, I've been thinking of a project, and I've been collecting a lot of different things that I call multiples. And it's looking at recycling, or rather upcycling, where I would actually do very, very large pieces with different collections that I have. Excuse me. So some of the things that I've been collecting are like paper bags, plastic bags, gloves, like work gloves that have been used, different papers, dictionaries, different things where I could make very large pieces of art, fabric, scarves, and actually show that, we don't need to throw things away. We can actually use them and make something interesting and something valuable instead of filling it up in the landfill.
Good for you. Sounds good. And you're an artist in so many ways with that answer, as far as I'm concerned. I know I said that was the last question, but I do have one more. If your art could speak, what would it say to the world right now? What do you think, Marsha?
I think my art would say thank you. Thank you for using me and not discarding me. Thank you for giving me a new life and a new concept and a new structure. I really appreciate it, and I'm hoping that someone likes it enough that they want to bring it to their home or office because it resonates with them. That's what I'm thinking.
I like the way you think. Rikki?
Well, with my work, I'm always looking for a harmonious result because I think there's plenty of angst already out there. And so I think that what I would want, the message I would want to convey would be find something that gives you peace. Find peace within yourself. Find a way to make peace around you.
I like that. That is nice. Ladies, thank you so very much for both being part of Houston Art Weeks and for giving us a window into your creativity.
Thank you.
Your work reminds us that art isn't just something we look at. It's something we experience, and you guys have told us about that today, whether it's copper, textiles, tile, paint, or whatever. Houston Art Week celebrates that diversity, uniting artists and communities in new ways, following along, keeping people supporting, and most of all, keeping the celebration of creativity. And I love that so much. So, ladies, thank you so much. And remember, Houston Art Weeks runs from October the 10th to the 19th with a special pop-up exhibition at the Montrose Center on October the 18th. Every piece purchased supporting mental health, the outreach through the StellaNova Foundation, which is also an amazing foundation. And there are so many, they've got October the 18th, they have what they're calling the last-minute pop-up exhibit at the Montrose Center. And let's see, they also have the second and third Saturdays at Sawyer Yards and also the silos. So there's so many different opportunities to reach out and get people to help out and get people to find out a little bit more about the incredible different types of art and the different types of artists that are out there. And I love that. For more information, we have a brand new website. You can go to HoustonArtWeeks.org. That's going to wrap it up for now. This is Scott Arthur. Thank you so very much, and take care of yourself and others.
The StellaNova Foundation is a Houston-based 501c3 organization whose mission is to provide resources to those experiencing mental health issues who may not have access to treatment or care. Find out more at StellaNovaFoundation.org. The Many Faces of StellaNova is a podcast for the StellaNova Foundation, and it's available on your favorite